Welcome to the Collector's Cast, everybody. Hey, we're back. Mike, how you doing?
Awesome, Clint. How are you?
Pretty good, because we're doing the car collecting episode today.
Yeah.
And, I love cars.
We
I
love
love me some cars.
Absolutely.
Even though we kind of met and bonded over motorcycles, cars were always right there, too.
Oh, yeah.
We just always told stories about all the great cars we had over the years. And, boy,
yeah.
Okay, aside from the auto wrecking business, which obviously I bought thousands of cars there, but personally bought and driven, have you ever sat down to figure out how many cars you've had? I lost count at like 35 or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know how many it's been.
Yeah.
I'd have to
It's that amount. I would have to. My brother and I one time did sit down, my older brother Perry, and we were counting all the cars that he owned and I owned, and it was crazy, but like at about when we were 18, 19 years old, we were already up to about
10 or something.
It was a crazy amount already each.
Me too. Because when, back in those days too, cars were a dime a dozen. It was insurance that was expensive for me anyway, out in BC.
Yeah.
And we would just buy like $100 beaters. And if something major enough happened, like say the front wheel fell off because the suspension broke apart, which actually happened to me, the ball joint snapped. And it was easier just to call a guy, and they'd come and give you like $25 for the scrap Hulk.
Yeah.
And then take it away, and you put that towards another $100 car and just swap the plates.
Well, you know what, pal? Before I even had a driver's license, I'd had a 59 Ford two-door, a 50 Chev Deluxe, and a 51 Chev pickup truck before I even had a driver's license.
Actually, I got kind of a similar story, but only one. I had a 70 Nova two-door with a straight 6, 3 on the tree before I had a license. I was working, and I was 15, and I wasn't old enough to drive, but I bought the car, and I had it sitting there, and I used to fart around on it and play with it and dream about getting a license. And then when I got one, and I finally put a permit on the car and drove it, it made it to the gas station, and the clutch blew. So me and my buddy got it rolling enough with a bad clutch just downhill, and we got it back to my house. And it's exactly what we did. We called a scrap guy. He came and gave us $25 for it, which we used to buy more beer, and got on the bus and went to the party anyway. But I did ask if I could keep my battery. I remember that. I had the wherewithal to keep the battery because I had a good Sears Die-Hard battery in there.
Wow.
And I just put it into the next car I bought.
Awesome.
Because we changed them like underwear back then. But now let's fast forward a little bit. Now car collecting, that was more necessity. You're just finding beaters to drive and that. I mean, yeah, you've always looked for something cool. But now we're talking about people that can just collect cars for the fact of they love cars. And it's not something everybody can do. It's expensive, takes a lot of room.
And if you're going to do it yourself, you have to have a lot of skills.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. The maintenance alone, just to own these cars, they need constant care and maintenance.
Yes.
And so if you don't have the money and the space and the knowledge, you might be stuck to collecting these beautiful 112 models, which are very nice. We got out here because we're doing a car subject. 112, you don't see those often.
No.
They're usually 124 or 118. They're the little guys. But
these are beauties.
And they're going to be in the Clint, the collector auction. I'm going to put them in the auction.
Yeah, they're very nice. Our guest today.
Oh, yes. Good old friend of yours.
Buddy of mine. I've known Rudy since he was...
His name's come up on the show
several times.
Yep.
I think I've known Wes since he was 10 years old. But he has one of the nicest hot rods I have ever seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's not spoil it.
No, we're not going to spoil it.
And we'll talk about Wes and his cars, and we'll talk with Wes himself.
Yep.
So we're going to go for a break right after this. Welcome back to the Collector's Cast, everybody. As promised, we've got our special guest, and he's a friend of yours, Mike.
Absolutely.
So why don't you give him an introduction? Who are we talking to today?
We're talking to Rudy from Weyburn, Saskatchewan.
Hey, Wes, how you doing?
Good. Hey, Clint. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Wes. Hey, have you been getting some of that minus 40 down in Weyburn, or a little bit warmer there?
It was cool last week. We did a family trip down to Phoenix, so we avoided the cold, and it was above zero again today. So
yeah,
good here.
Yeah, I saw those pictures you were sending, and I was having a hard time keeping you as a friend, seeing you down in Arizona.
Oh, basking in the sun.
Basking in the sun.
Yeah.
As were a lot of other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking, of course, about car collecting today, Wes. And I'd like to ask you, first of all, how many vehicles would you say you have, or do you know the number?
I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to kind of do a head count, but probably 4, 5, 6. Yeah, something like that, I think.
Okay, cool. Well, we've looked at on one of our Show Us Your Stuff episodes. We looked at 2 or 3 of your cars. Oh, he's turned the monitor around, so we can now see you. That's a nice looking beard you got going there, man.
Thanks,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm a fan of beards, as we all know. So yeah, grow one myself. Thank you.
That's a super duper special forces beard.
There you go. And could he see us now, Aiden? You can see us?
Yeah, I've got you guys now, too. Yeah.
There we
Awesome.
go. So you can see we got a couple of nice 112 scale diecasts out here celebrating our mutual love of cars. We got the
Awesome.
58 Vet or so there and the 64 and a half Mustang pace car. And while we were kind of on the break, we were waiting for you to come in. We were talking about which one would you rather have in real life. And I said, based on the fact that it's a pace car, only the Mustang. But I said if the Mustang was just a red convertible and the Corvette had an interesting paint scheme other than the boring old white on red that we always see, I would change my answer. So how do you feel about those?
I prefer the sports car, 2-seater sports car.
Yeah.
A little more fun to drive.
Well, you have a Corvette, at least one Corvette, don't you? A newer one?
Yeah,
70s or something?
It's a 1980. It's our honeymoon car, so it's kind of been around for a long time, and it's not nothing special. It's your everyday run-of-the-mill Corvette.
It's a Corvette,
in
though.
1980.
Yeah. Wes,
Yeah, 1980 was a low horsepower year.
Oh, yeah. I had an 81 or an 82, something like that.
Wes, tell us about
They're fun.
that hot rod of yours, your Ford, your old Ford.
Yeah, what year is that?
Yeah, so it's a 1934. Dad and I, when I was 13 years old, he took me out to the middle of nowhere and close to, Mike would know, by Margot, Saskatchewan. And lo and behold, in the trees, buried in the trees, there was a 34 Ford lying on its side or upside down. I can't remember how it was. I was 13 years old. That was a long time ago. And we dragged it home, and the project started. And 28 years later, it saw the light of day. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Usually 28-year-long projects don't ever get finished.
Yeah, not mine don't.
No, that's pretty cool, though.
And I guess it helped having a brother that's a pretty darn good body man, eh?
I've always said there's very few. We watch a lot of shows. You guys watch the YouTube shows, the same ones I watch. And everybody, we give a huge accolades to some of these people, but there's very few people in this world that can take a project from start to finish. And I'm fortunate enough, my brother is one of the guys that could take a car and do absolutely anything to it. And it looks fantastic when it's done.
Yeah, that car. I've been lucky enough to see that car in Saskatchewan at Greenwater Lake, and it's
And that was one of the
pretty much
ones
flawless.
that was one of the ones we saw in the picture,
Yeah.
too. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Is it purple?
no, it's red.
It's red, okay. I'm mixing 2 cars up in my head, but I know I've looked at a couple of 34s lately. What do you got in there for powertrain, Wes?
It's a small block Ford stroke, and with a tri-carb system on it. So
Well, Mike knows I like that. I'm a Ford power in a Ford car kind of guy. I'm a purist that way. I mean, you get so sick of seeing another Model A with a 350 in it, right? And so that's good on you for keeping it Ford power in there. That's very cool.
And it's the thing about that car too. When I saw the engine and I saw the tri-power.
Oh, yeah.
I'm used to seeing tri-power on a 327 or something like that, but to see the tri-power on that was just awesome. That car is super. Tell us, what else do you have? I think you dragged an old truck home a little while ago, didn't you?
Michelle, actually, my wife, is into camping, and we found a 76 Super Camper Special, which I didn't know much about, but apparently there's not a whole lot of them. There's lots of camper specials, but the Super Camper Special, they moved the rear axle back further in it to accommodate a slide-in camper in the back of the truck, and it hauls it better with the longer wheelbase. So
Wow.
It's kind of a unique vehicle, and it's the project we're working on right now. So.
And that's a
Kind of what
76, you said? Like a dent side body style.
Yeah, it's a 76, and it's a 350 and single, like just a regular cab truck.
Yeah.
They're kind of unique.
Yeah, an F-350 on singles or duals?
The single.
Yeah. So an F-350 Super Camper Special on singles, that is an odd truck. So the box is going to have a real, well, you said that it's got a longer wheelbase. So that's going to be an odd box too, with a longer front section and the wheel arch moved way back. That's a rare bird.
Yeah, it's unique to it, and the spare tire is tucked in right behind the passenger side door with a big opening on the box for the spare tire to fit, because there was no room behind the axle when they did it.
And it's a fleet side yet.
Fleet side, yeah.
Yeah, so they stick that in. That's kind of neat. Another custom touch that you wouldn't see on a normal one. Neat. And I will say that those dent side trucks, the 73 to 79 Fords, are getting really popular lately. Everybody's looking for them.
Wes, what's your, well, I mean, your Ford is just awesome, but what's your holy grail? Is there a holy grail out there that you'd like to get a hold of yet?
You know, I'm pretty fortunate, Mike, that I get to look at my holy grail every day, and it's the vehicle that me and Dad picked out of the trees when I was 13 years old, and you know, there isn't anything else there. I mean, I love all vehicles, and people, you know, they typecast yourself as a Ford guy or Chev guy or Dodge guy. I don't own a Dodge, but I think maybe a 70 Cuda might be one of the nicest vehicles ever built. I don't own one, but I mean, my 34, I mean, my brother's got a 33 coupe that was my dad's car when he was in the club, the jacket that's behind me here, the Carb Kings, and that was Dad's club car. Tom, being older, got it, and then I got the sedan. And for years, I always liked the coupes, but now that I have a sedan, I like the sedan.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, Wes, because you know, none of us are getting any younger, and one thing is, I've always wanted, like, the holy grail to me has always been a awesome 55 Chev, like the one in American Graffiti or a two-lane blacktop, like something that I've always wanted a 55.
Which we
Chev.
pointed out. I don't know if you know this, Wes, but that's the same car they used in two-lane blacktop is the same 55 they used in American Graffiti. Just a little.
I think you mentioned that in a show earlier.
I did. Well, as a long-time watcher, then you know that. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not educating anybody here.
Yeah, and I've just never, like, for a while I had a Project 55 sedan delivery, and I was working on, and then I sold it because I was like, no, it's just not exactly what I want. But yeah, so you're a fortunate guy to have that holy grail.
Well, I'm going to interject and say, okay, first of all, a 34 Ford is a very iconic car, regardless. But from what I'm hearing from you, Wes, it's the connection with your dad and all the way. It could be a 39 Dodge or a 35 Chevy or something. Wouldn't matter. It's that connection about you guys going and getting it in the wild, bringing it home. All that is really what makes it your car.
Yeah, absolutely, Clint. It's you know, like we talk about sentimental stuff and all that, but it really is like that. You know, my dad was a 33, 34 guy. Growing up in the 50s when everybody was a 32 guy, he appreciated the 33s, 34s are just a little more finished, refined than what the 32s were.
Well, the 32 was basically fresh out of the Model A. They had to do something, and that was their first crack at it, you know.
Yeah, and they put the V8 in it, and it was a hot rod, right? Instantly. So, yeah.
Actually, when Mike was talking about American Graffiti, I thought you might go for the John Milner car at first, the 32 Ford. Those are always cool. I mean, our buddy Al Parker has the black one, and man, it's pretty tough to beat a 32 Ford. They're all so nice. And like you said, a 70 Cuda is beautiful, too. In fact, I really like a 70 Cuda because they're an inch shorter than the Challenger, and they're just a little bit tougher looking.
Are they?
They are. I've heard that from a couple people that the Challenger and the Cuda are a little different in that the Cuda's a little bit shorter. Yeah, makes it look a little tougher. I think
we learn something every show. That's what I love about this.
There you go. That's Well, I think I actually learned that from TV. I think that was Mark Worman from Graveyard Cars that said that. And so he's a pretty knowledgeable guy on that. Although our buddy Gary Kay says he knows more than him. So that's the one thing about Dodge guys is they're freaks. They're freaks about every nut and bolt, and they know the cars inside and out, like more than a Ford or Chevy guy mostly. But I'm like you too. I like everything, and I'm going to answer that same Holy Grail question. If any amount of money, Barrett Jackson, whatever you want, I'd have to do a 68 to 70 Charger, like a Dukes of Hazzard Charger. that body style. Just always just unattainable.
Another one of my favorites. I love those cars too. I remember being at a goalie school in Yorkton.
Not the one that Mike taught.
No, well, I did go to the one in Kelvington, but this was a different one. It was a popular one in Yorkton, and I remember a guy pulled up with a Charger, like that 68, 69, and it had I don't know if it was a 440, but it had a blower sticking out the hood, and he was going from Ontario to Whitehorse. I do remember that, and he'd have to warm it up for like 15, 20 minutes every morning, and then head out. But I couldn't have been. I was about 12 or 13 then, and I remember that car. I can just see it like it was yesterday.
What color was it?
It was black.
Oh, black Charger with a blower.
Yeah.
And that's a set of kahunas to drive that from Ontario to Whitehorse.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking
absolutely.
about a hot rodded out thing that could give you problems or whatever along the way. That's cool. What a great memory. I'm going to say I saw one done up General Lee colors on the freeway a few years ago just outside of Vancouver, somewhere around Abbotsford. And it was orange with the General Lee decals and everything on it. And the guy driving it looked like a 50s greaser. He was probably a guy closer to 50 years old, but he had the greaser ducktail hairdo and a black T-shirt, and the thing was just so tough, and it had a blower sticking out. The only thing non-General Lee about it.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah, you get a lot of attention with a blower.
And this is why we're doing this episode about car collecting. When guys start talking about cars, they get lost in it. They go, "Oh man, that thing's so nice."
Wes, what else do you have in your stable there?
Well, like my wife's 66 Mustang, that it took us about 3 years. And when I say yes, I mean I did a lot of work on it, but I'll never say that I don't get help. I do get my hands quite dirty, but I rely on help. And then the orange truck that you guys had on the show there was a friend of mine built that truck, and Tony Bruce was his name. He was an unbelievable machinist. He passed away in 2016. And his daughter had the truck and had contacted me a few years ago, and just we'd never really met.
Before you go on, let's remind the audience what kind of truck we're talking about. This orange truck.
It's a 71 C10.
Yeah,
and it's got a 427 with an 871 blower. Tony did an amazing job. I did a few little finishing touches on it. The hood was never finished, so I finished it up and did a few little things. But it's just a neat story because Tony was an unbelievable, just meticulous machinist and did all that truck himself, aside from the paint. And just for me to be able to, to go out and spend some time with it here, and be the curator, I guess, of it. I don't take a lot of, I can't take any credit for the truck other than I own it. But it was really nice that his daughter trusted me to be the next owner of the truck. So,
yeah, that's a great story.
Another personal connection.
Yeah. And there's just another thing on cars I want to talk to you, Wes. We had talked a little bit about you wanting to do something, I guess for lack of better words, for the old timers who sort of started all this hot rod stuff and that long before any of us did. And tell me a little bit about that. I know you had a really good idea.
Well, still working on it. Haven't been able to get a whole bunch off the ground, but I think it's going to come together quickly, Mike, once we start to make some connections here. I've got some names and numbers and things. I really appreciate that people, like my dad and his friends, and I hear the stories, of hooking booster cables to the power lines above the shop so they could run their welders and, cutting up exhaust pipes to make headers. Those kinds of stories just intrigue me. And we owe so much to these guys because, we can dial 1-800 and basically build a car nowadays. We don't need we have the technology. Those guys were true engineers. And I'd like to get as many of them together as we can.
Yeah, that's what do you, so you want to start a show or something, like a car show with those old guys, or? Even
if it's combined with another show, Clint, just something where we can get as many, like my dad's he'll be 84 here, and sharp as a tack, but I think we need to get them together so we can hear more of those stories. We can pass them on to our kids. I'm 50. I just turned 50 the other day. I'm not a young guy.
No.
But I think this is something, the world is changing and we're going different directions.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
we need to hold on to the car society is still huge, and with the company I do my insurance through, they tell me that millennials are one of their biggest insurers now. So it's not lost. People are still interested. The young are still interested in this, and I'd like them to hear those stories firsthand.
Yeah.
We all know stories get changed a little bit. They're kind of like fish stories a little bit, but when you can hear them right from the person who did them, and I think it'd just be fantastic if we could get as many of those guys, whether it be one or whether it be 50, from all different clubs, everywhere. I know it's hard for some of these older guys to travel, but I'd really like to put something together where we can get them all together and hear their story.
Yeah, it'd be great to almost do like a panel or something. Eh? Give them all a beer or something, let them sit at a table and just ask them questions, shoot questions at them. Like, what's the most innovative thing you ever had to do? Or, like when you talk about cutting up pipes to make headers. And I love that. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, well, make sure you keep us in the loop. And so we can do whatever we can to help out with that and attend to maybe a couple of the events too.
I remember hearing a story, I may have brought it up at the show before, about a guy that made a fender for an old Ford out of a 45-gallon drum. I love hearing stories like that. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
They were just, like I said, they were engineers. They could figure it out. A funny story I heard this summer. I just met a gentleman this summer. You had your plate collector on the last show, showing some of his plates. This is kind of my license plate guy that I met this summer. Mm-hmm. Told me a story about when he was, I think he said 2 or 3 days old. His dad had a tea bucket and was part of the big club in Regina here in Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. And they were doing a meet in Winnipeg. And when he was 3 days old, I think he said 3 days old, he rode on his mom's lap in the tea bucket to Winnipeg so they could go to the car show. There's so many things that I think the younger people nowadays, they hear those stories and wonder how that's even possible that you would do something like that. But it's just,
I'm getting the helicopter. I'm getting the helicopter signal that we're running low on time, but those are the stories that. Hey, I stood on my dad's. You talk about that C10. My dad had a yellow one, and I used to stand on the front seat with my hands on the dashboard, riding like a dog when I was 3. Anyway, we got to cut you loose. The cameras are running out of battery or something. We got to shut them down for a break. But it's been fantastic having you on. We talk about you a lot on the show. Actually, you come up in conversation. Mike always brings up his cool buddy Wes Rudy.
And Wes, I'll give you a shout in the next day or so.
Yeah,
we got more to talk about.
We'll have you back again because you got so many subjects you can cover. Today, cars. Who knows? Next time, something else.
I appreciate your show, you guys. It's very interesting, and I'm learning so much about different types of collecting, and whether it's something that interests me to get into the hobby or just to hear what people collect is awesome, and it's a great show. I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I do.
Awesome,
right, Wes, thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. Okay, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
And we're back. Hey, that was Wes Rudy.
Wes Rudy, yeah.
He's a neat guy.
Oh, he is a super guy. Him and his wife Michelle. Like I said, I've known them and been close to them and their whole family, their dad and mom and
you taught him
sisters.
Taught him hockey goalie skills as a youngster.
He was a student of mine at the Kelvington Hockey School. He was a goalie and a great guy and like I said and
a heck of a collector, man. He did a lot of cool stuff.
His brother as well, Tom. He's just a crazy skilled guy at restoring vehicles too.
A lot of cool people in the world.
Yeah.
We get them right here on the Collector's Cast. We get them here as guests.
Yeah, and you know what? We're going to have Wes back again to talk about motorcycles.
Oh, because he's got a good collection
He's
going
got, he's got a super flathead Harley. And
I can't wait. Well, let's repeat guests. We want those. Absolutely.
Yes.
So as we're winding down here, we do have a little feature nowadays we've been doing called Show Us Your Stuff. And through the magic of television, Utai at the studio is going to make a picture appear. There it is. Hey, look, boom, there it is. It's an old Ford pickup. What is that, about an 81 or so?
Yeah.
And that belonged to a buddy of yours?
Well, it belongs to a buddy of Wes's.
Oh.
That I met. This guy met through Wes. His name is Derek Pont.
Derek,
he also has an unbelievably really cool Hydrodyne boat.
Well, why did you
which
send us a picture? No, there's a reason he sent us a picture of this old truck.
of this old truck.
And why is that?
It was his first vehicle ever.
Wow.
And it's been off the road for years, and then just recently he got it back on the road.
So there's sentimental value there. It might just look like an old Ford pickup.
But
we were talking with Wes about dent side Fords, the 70s ones. And now these ones here, the 80 and up, are getting very collectible, and kids like souping them up and doing them up. And, it's like anything, it comes around, and repeats. Fashion repeats, history repeats. And, there's old guys that used to build 30s and 40s cars like Wes's 34 Ford that would have laughed at our cool 60s cars at one time. Oh, you kids are just playing around. Those aren't real hot rods.
Yeah.
So, it all comes. So, we can't make fun of the new kids and whatever they're doing because one day it's going to be hot rod.
Do the math. If you have a vehicle that's a 1980,
that's antique.
yes.
Jeez.
So
yeah, well, and people say, well, how long till a Vega Vegas are popular. That's a bad example, but something like I don't know, a newer import or whatever. But nope, they're souping them up. If it's old, they will. Somebody somewhere will do a project out of one. Anyway,
how about a Sunbird?
A Sunbird, yeah. Well, it's a Pontiac, and Pontiac's gone, so
Yeah.
there's going to be some sort of attachment there with somebody along the lines. Before we wrap it up here and spend too much time, I got to do the trivia question.
Okay.
And because we're doing cars, it's automotive trivia. Here we go. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Now, we talk about engine displacement in cubic inches, us cool old hot rodders. Today, the kids say, oh, it's a 4-point this liter and a 2-point that liter. But we talk cubic inches. 350, 426 Hemi, whatever. What cubic inch size was shared by all three of the big three GM, Ford, and Chrysler manufacturers? What cubic inch engine did they all make? They were, of course, very different engines, but they were all the same size.
Whoa, that's a good one. But I'm going to say 300.
No, I can't think of a single 300 cubic inch engine actually. But no, but you're kind of close, but off. It's like you hit the wrong part of the dartboard.
I give up.
400. Think about it. You got a Ford 400.
Yeah.
And Dodges came with those 400s in the 70s, and then they had the Pontiac 400.
Yes.
So yes, GM, Ford, and Chrysler all made a 400 cubic inch engine. Now you can use that at parties or
But
whatever.
was there not a 400 Chevy small block?
Oh yeah, there's
At one
400s. Yeah, Chevy small blocks. I guess that's a factory motor too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pontiac 400, Chevy small block 400.
Okay, well that was a good one.
There you go. 400
We'll
is
see if
the
we can-
answer. You could win some money off your buddies with that little.
I wonder if we
tasty
would have
tidbit.
stumped West Rudy with that.
I don't know. Damn it. Well, text him tonight and see if he knows the answer. Okay. You know what? We're running out of time. We're out of time. We're
All
officially
right.
out of time. Everybody's gone home and gone to bed. We're sitting here by ourselves. Even Aiden, the producer, left. No, he's right there. Just kidding. This has been the Collector's Cast. We really enjoyed having you. We always do. Please keep tuning in. We have a lot of fun doing this whole thing, don't we?
Send us your stuff.
Send
Show us your stuff.
Show us your stuff at feedback@thecollectorscast.com. That's the place to send it. All right.
Take care.
It's been the Collector's Cast. Good night.
Bye-bye.